Hey, it's Todd Graves. Welcome back to the channel today. I'm going to talk about my personal aha moments I had when I learned Mo's single plane swing. So there's no better feeling knowing that when you wake up in the morning to go play golf, so that you're going to play well. There's no better feeling of hitting good golf shots down the fairway. So my mission today is to help as many people as possible wake up every day feeling good that they're going to go out there and play great because of the single plane swing. So as you know, I don't really like guessing at anything that I do when it comes to Mo Norman's golf swing and learning the single plane swing. I don't like guessing. So one of my jobs as an instructor and as your coach is to quantify things and figure things out so that I can bring those to you so you can then easily understand them and apply them to your own golf swing so you can get better. There is some times though, however, that I've had some incredible aha moments, some discoveries that I've made that changed the way I thought about Mo's swing. Most of these have come from the research and development I've done with measuring Mo Norman's swing, measuring the single plane swing in a 3D sense, and just doing lots of studying and research to find out what is actually occurring in the swing. I wanted to share with you a few of these aha moments. Let's start with the address position. One of the things I couldn't believe when I finally dug into it and understood was how Mo's shoulders were positioned at address. And I guess what's so amazing about it is people often talk about the shoulders as being open or closed or square. So when you look at how golf is being taught, it's always taught from that terminology of open, closed, or square. But one of the things that you have to understand, that I now understand, that helped me tremendously understand what's going on with the shoulders, is that the torso of the body, is different than the shoulders of the body. In other words, the shoulders are really the front of the arms and they're independently moving here relative to the torso. So the torso position affects the arm position, but they're not the same. So one of the things that you'll see, and this was very important for me to understand, is that the torso at address, so when I set up in a single plane position and I have my club aligned with the lead arm and the club aligned with my trail arm, and I'm in an ideal single plane position, and I have my side bend correct, so the tilt is correct. The torso is in an open position, so my upper body is in an open position. If you look at my position, my upper body is actually open. So I put a target line here on the ground, and you can see that when I set up, the torso is actually open. However, the shoulders are actually closed. So that's kind of what I want to show you here is the torso rotation, how it works during the motion of the swing. So if I make a rotation into a backswing, the torso rotation will not be the same as the shoulders because the shoulders are independent of the torso. So you can have your torso in an open position and your shoulders in a closed position. That's why when people ask me the question, well, the shoulders are closed to that line, I don't really pay attention. That is not your alignment. How the shoulders are sitting here is relative to the position of the arms at address. It is not how my body is aligned. My body is aligned because my torso is in an open position to that. So I like the torso to be open and the arms to be in front, and that's the ideal position of the shoulders because at impact my torso will be even further open. So this was a big deal for me to understand in my learning from Mo, in my understanding of what Mo is doing, and in my teaching of the single plane swing for you, is to help you understand that when people talk about shoulders, you got to be a little bit careful when they talk about shoulder rotation in the sense of, are the shoulders open or closed? Because the torso position, again, is not the same as the shoulder position, and this was a major aha moment for me when I discovered this in the single plane swing. All right, so one of the things that was very important to me, which is how the backswing actually works. Because watch this. When I go into my backswing, because I quantify this stuff, I wanted to know exactly what was going on. When I move my body from a 15 to 20 degree open position to right there. Now notice, that's not very far back. You would say maybe the club's moved 1 foot, maybe 2.5 feet. So the club hasn't moved very far in the backswing, right to there. My hands have not moved very far. And I always ask my students this, if my body starts at 15 degrees open, I go right to here. My body is now 45 to 50 degrees closed. In other words, I have moved 60 to 65 degrees of rotation from here to here. And that is shocking to a lot of people. It was shocking to me to understand, because watch this. When I go to the top of my backswing, when I'm here, my torso is a total of about 80 degrees. So it's moved about from plus 15 to a minus 80, 95. 65 of that occurred to here. So 2/3 of the rotation of the backswing occurred in this part right here. Now, why am I telling you this? Because here's what I see happen so often when people are learning the swing, because we're going to talk about how to complete the backswing. What I see so often is that people think the backswing is actually just one big motion. They just turn, and they take the club back, and they over-rotate, over-swing. Watch what I'm going to do in the backswing now. Now that you understand that if I go from here to there, and that's most of the movement, let's talk about what happens in the second part. So if I go from here, and that's 65 degrees of rotation, the rest of it is mostly arms and shoulders. Look at this. Arms and shoulders take the club to the top, and now I've completed my backswing. That's what we call separation, but that's the important part of the conversation today, is that during this backswing, and I'm going to talk about what I teach in my schools here, is that everything turns together, and there's that rotation, most of the rotation of the backswing, and then basically it feels like the lower body is slowing down and stopping, the upper body's not moving a whole lot, and it's just arms and hands at the top. So it almost feels like it's two different motions, everything, arms and shoulders. Everything, arms and shoulders. Now, here's why this is important, because now that you've separated the arms and shoulders from the torso in the backswing, you can now set your body, stabilize it, rotate the torso, and the arms are now lagging, so now you can produce speed. See what just happened? I created the position of lag in the backswing, and that's what's important today. All right, so here's the thing about motion, right? When you're swinging a golf club and your body's in a full speed motion, the swing happens in less than a second. There is no way during this half of a second that you can think about the motion of your body. It just doesn't work that way. By the time you've made a thought and you're in motion, the thought occurs after the motion's occurred. This is why people have so much trouble having swing thoughts and trying to play golf. But let me tell you about something that I think is really going to help you today, and it was an aha moment for me when I learned this from Mo Norman and studied the single plane swing. Lower body movement. What is happening with the lower body? Now, you can do a very simple experiment yourself to learn this, and I'll show you this. But one of the things I discovered with Mo swing is how important it is to do two important things with the lower body. First of all, the lower body is controlling what's happening to the upper body. Whatever happens down here affects what happens upstairs up here. So keep this in mind. If we don't get control of this, if this isn't in the right place, there's really no way for this to be in the right place, which means that these can't be in the right place and this club can't be in the right place either. So it's like this domino effect of lower body, upper body, arms, hands, and then club. So we have to get the lower part of the body working correctly. Now here was the discovery that I thought was it was revealing to me, and it was very important for me to understand this, that here's what Mo did to control the lower body. And you can see it in any video that you watch when he's swinging. He has a flex lead knee, and then his trail heel is on the ground. Now he may roll the foot a little bit, but the trail foot is on the ground as he swings through the golf ball. So you look at that, and you don't see that in a lot of players. You see straight and lead knees and feet coming up, but with Mo, it was a flex lead knee and a trail heel on the ground through impact. Now why is this important? Because here's what I want you to do. If you do this, if you flex your knee and you keep your foot on the ground, I want you to rotate your hips right here as much as you can. And what you find is that you can rotate about right to there. This is a limitation being created. Now, this is very important because when I create a limitation here, it does not necessarily create a limitation here. I can still move my upper body pretty well. So what happens is there's limitations being created in the body and you don't even need to think about it. That's my point. If you keep this knee flexed and that foot down, you've naturally created a limitation of the pelvis. Guess what? You don't think about it now. You swing a golf club and those limitations are there, and now your upper body can then produce the proper motion into the ball. That was a huge thing for me to understand, is that I don't have to think about how much pelvis rotation do I have. You don't have to think about that. All you have to do is position your body, the knee. You got to have your foot right, foot position, knee position, have your trail heel on the ground, and now just through the positions of your body, you've limited the lower body, and now you can make a perfect single plane swing. And that's what's important about what I'm telling you here, is that it's not stuff you have to work on necessarily. It's not swing thoughts. It's positional thing. That's why Mo always said, hit your positions. That's the most important thing you can do. If we can get the lower body right, then you can get the upper body right. And that was a massive aha moment for me learning from Mo Norman. All right, so most people don't really understand what goes on at impact. Impact is not a position of the swing. It's a moment that's occurring as you're moving through the golf ball. But I like to quantify things. I like to figure things out. And I like to know what's going on, so I make sure I'm correct. And by the way, I measure things too. If you've ever seen my single plane 3D work, that's me putting a swing in 3D motion and measuring each position of the swing. But I want to talk about things that really helped me understand what was happening during a golf swing. And impact is one of those things that I was like, wow, that's really interesting, of what's going on in that time frame of impact. When I go to the top of my backswing, my torso, my upper body is turned at about 85 degrees, 80 to 85 degrees. Now, my pelvis is about 40, half of that. In other words, if this only turns 40 and this turns 80, in order for them to be at the same rotation at impact, I'll ask you a quick question. So if I go to the top of my backswing and this one, my torso is turned twice as far as my pelvis, and now I'm going to come down all the way to impact. And at impact, this is turned the same amount as my torso, which is about 30 degrees. If one's at 80 and it gets to 30, and one's at 40 and it gets to 30, this one had to move twice as fast as this, correct? Because I had to create more movement with this than I did this. That was interesting to me. Here's why. Because now I go to the backswing, this has to move first and rotate as this lags behind. Now this has to catch up to impact. When this is catching up, so now my torso and arms are catching up to this pelvis, guess what? It's the lag and what produces speed in the swing. So this was telling me, knowing that the pelvis and torso were the exact same rotation and impact, told me that, and this one was twice as far at the top, it told me that that is how speed is being produced in the swing. And so why is this important? Because if you do not get the proper backswing position, you cannot produce the speed generated at the moment of impact. I'll give you a quick example. So a lot of times I'll see people and they don't rotate enough at the top of the swing, which means that they're not separated enough. This hasn't gone far enough. And now because the upper body hasn't turned enough, it can't produce speed in the impact. So that's one example. That makes a lot of sense. But there's another one. What if you turn too much? So now what happens, and I see this a lot too, is people turn way too far. And now what happens is this lower body moves, but guess what? This one's so far turned, it can't catch up. And so now it doesn't have enough turn at impact. See what's happening? So this relationship of lower body turn and upper body turn, and knowing that there's twice as much torso turn at the top than pelvis, and there's the exact same amount of both of them in impact, told me that if I've got to get this thing we call separation, I got to separate this from this so that I can make sure at impact that when these are separated correctly, that I get the ideal rotation at impact, and that's how speed is produced. That was a major aha moment for me, because now I understood the sequencing of the upper body versus lower body. And that's what's important today. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and if you liked it, share with your friends, because we want to teach everybody the simple single plane swing.